So, good evening and welcome to Talking V8s. Joining me tonight, I have V8's longest serving driver, Bryan Andrew. Welcome, Bryan, and thank you for joining me this evening.
Yeah, good evening.
So, first and foremost, being V8's longest serving driver, tell us where it all started.
Uh, the involvement with stock cars from watching from early years when my mother and father taking me there. Um, Being central Manchester, we had quite a few venues local, and it was always the idea to get to the other side of the fence somehow, somewhere. And for the Hotstox, it started off at the last ever Bellevue at Hyde Road, and we went there to watch them. And my dad said, "Why don't you go for one of them instead of a Formula One to try it?" Never looked back, really.
So, how did you actually become involved then in the V8s?
Um, Basically, back in 1988, back in the days, it was literally the Lomax as family that run the sport, and they're only down the road from me. So we took a trip down there one Saturday. Paul never met Paul and Kath at the time, and we just went in there, spoke to him, and at the time, Kath had a little folder with all the cars, pictures of all the cars that was racing at the time, and she just says that one's for sale, that one's for sale, that one's for sale, and I just said that one, and we just went, looked at it, bought it, and I've just recently seen pictures of it out when I practiced in early '88 at Hendersford in it. Um, you just don't realise these people are out there taking photographs, but somebody took photographs back then. It's quite interesting that. But yeah, it started off from the Lomaxes.
So, what were your memories of the formula in the earlier days then?
Oh gosh, the first meeting was '88 at Long Eaton. Pulled on track, and promptly 30 odd other cars joined me. I started at the back. And the early years, I think I probably did about 7 or 8 meetings before I actually finished a race through one thing and another. There was so many cars out there in them days. Even if you were going well, if one spun out in front of you, that was it. That was the end of your race. Um, but the car numbers were very high back then, which probably set me in good stead for what the formula sort of led and went through. Being able to race with, I've raced with like 9 cars on track and then 39 cars on track. So, um, but a lot of the other aspect of it, there was so many different venues that we were going to race at. We had Hartlepool, we had Aycliffe up in the north, and the actual formula back then, they tried to get guest tracks, whereas one a year we would go somewhere where nobody had raced before,
Right.
and that was always good, because you was in pretty much the same boat as everybody else. Nobody'd race there. You just go, and sometimes you come off good.
So, it was more of a level playing field then.
Yeah, yeah, and like I say, even if it clashed with another meeting, you'd still have 30, 40 cars there because of the actual car numbers. So it was able to be done. But uh, but yeah, it was some good times back then.
Are there any standout moments from that time?
Uh, I mean, top of the list really for me was the trips over to the Isle of Man. Um, they was organised down to the last, meeting people on the ferry and crossing and where you stayed and everything. And the social side of that was unbelievable. It was like 60% social and the rest was racing. It wasn't an ideal suited track, but it was a holiday as well. You could holiday. But I mean, back then you'd park up. You'd never really park in the pits at the side of the same person every time. So you just met new people constantly from all over the country, and picking up things as you go. But yeah, those were some good trips and good times down there.
So, what has kept you competing in the V8 Formula for 37 years?
Um, I th if I'm honest, I think it's the will to win a championship. I've been so close in different years. I've always tried to do what I can, and I always thought that, you know, if I'd won a couple of championships, I may have moved on to the maybe the Formula Ones or something. You kind of set it in your head that if you've done good in one formula, is it time to move on? And also I enjoy being part of something and consistent. And I'm not really a change person, if you know what I mean. It's something that, you know, I've always enjoyed doing. Some friends come, some friends go, and then some friends you see 5, 10 years later watching you, you know, and it's a really good formula that I've enjoyed doing, you know, or
Good.
enjoy doing.
So, what would you say have been your career high points then?
um, I mean, going back early years, obviously your first win sticks in your mind. Um, that was from White, along Eton. Funny tale about that. It was a Saturday and a Sunday meeting at Long Eaton. It was one of them ones where they stayed over. Back, I mean, I don't now, but back in the days, people had quite a bit to drink that evening, and then the next day they were a bit worse for wear. So fortunately, because I don't drink, I took advantage of that and caught them on the off chance and took a win and, you know, enjoyed it. Like, you know what I mean? So it was probably a bit helped out with the alcohol on a different way, like, you know. But uh, but yeah, and then like I say, moving on, I had my stag do at Stoke of all places. I set that up because all my friends were there, and it'd be daft to pull them away from a race meeting, so I just went there. Um, and later on, just recently, I set up a veterans get together, just to try and get some of the old names and people back out. And I was just taken aback how that just escalated with the amount of people that turned up. I honestly thought I'd get 20, 30 people, but we absolutely filled the place, you know, and I just felt that was quite a proud moment for me. It was heck trying to organise it, like, but it came off good.
Have there been any low points during your time racing?
Um, Obviously, you get lots of injuries that knock you back. Um, I mean, and one of the other ones is sometimes you see a lot of good friends that you don't see again. You know what I mean? And the only
Yeah.
thing that keeps you together is the formula. So that kind of goes a bit with it. Um, and if I'm honest, you know, back in the earlier days, that the fact that the Lomax family kept the formula together early days, and when they disappeared, it was such a bumpy road to get to where we are now, you know. So it was a shame that that happened. Um, but other than that, you know, I just try and forget about the low points, don't you, really, and just keep trying to make out good memories, you know.
In the early years, were there any rivalries that stood out to you?
Um, I didn't really have many rivalries back in the earlier years, simply because I don't really think I was that competitive.
Good.
Um, I just saw that finishing a race was good news. You know what I mean? Back then, um, I mean, I had a little bit of a funny run in with a lad called John Adams, number 45. Um, he prided himself on proper bumper racing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And we had a few little sort of spin-offs at different meetings, and then it came to a head at Coventry, and he wouldn't go out, and I was waiting for him to go out, and you know, and then the next thing we just went out and we raced, and it just got forgotten about, you know.
Yeah.
But no, other than that, nothing really back in the days, like, you know.
You've had two second place finishes in world finals. How did that feel being so close but not actually getting that first place?
Um, I mean, the first one at Buxton, I'll always kick myself, because there was a move that I could have done early on in the race because it was fighting for the first place with Chris Brayshaw, who went on to win it.
Mm.
And I kind of played it a bit cool. The car was really quicker than Chris on the day, and I was trying to preserve tyres. But then a back marker got in the way twice, and the opportunity was gone. And once
Right.
you cross that line, it's gone. It's one of them. I should have been, could have been.
Yeah.
The second one at Birmingham was more of a surprise, really. I'd smashed my car up, and Tom Conwell, who had the car at the time, off said, "Just take my car." And
Right.
I didn't really like borrowing cars, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean, because I've got to fix mine, and then if something happens, I've got to fix theirs. So,
Yeah. Double
and
expense.
yeah, and I'd never raced the car before, never even sat in it. And I don't know what took me, but I said, yeah, go on then, I'll race it in a world final, and then I'm thinking, have I done right here? Never gone round in it. And and that was that. And I just gradually in the race got used to it and used to it, and I was getting quicker and quicker. And then the race ended, I think, a couple of laps early, and that was it. Second place again. So I
So
thought, just got to
you're
keep
happy with that
trying,
one.
haven't you? Yeah, I was kind of happy that I'd got there, but then again, you just think second again, but
Yeah.
who am I? One of them, there's
It might
plenty
be
more, I
time
hope.
yet. It might be
Yeah,
time.
keep trying.
Are there any other memorable wins from your career that stand out to you?
Um, other than the first one, um, I won the Bob Bradford Memorial, which
Yeah.
was always won on World Final night. I think that was a Skegness. I was doing really well, and it's just nice to get your name on a trophy, especially the
Yeah.
Bob Bradford one, because I've raced a lot with Mark and Carl, and even Bob when he was racing in his days. Um, the other one that springs to mind is winning from Superstar.
Right.
Now, you sit on that grid and you're right at the back, and you think I've
Yeah.
got to pass every one of these cars, and then when you do it, you think, oh, hang on, I must be quite good. you know,
Yeah, you
yeah,
deserve
those
that
those
superstar status then.
yeah, you kind of think, right, well, I know I've got there on points, but
Yeah.
some people can get there on points, but never really get the win on it, and I just thought, well, that was a good opportunity.
So, which would you say are memorable tracks from the early years?
Um, I mean, obviously, Long Eaton sticks high because that's the first time I pulled on a track and the fence shut and I was racing. Um, Crew Stadium was always a track that I kept saying to my dad, "Are we racing this weekend?" And he said, "Yeah, it's Crew. You need to go." And I'm like, "Are you sure we're racing?" And I always used to get the jitters about going to Crew. And then once you're out racing, it was like no other track. You just put your foot to the bulkhead and just turned, and it was a brilliant track. Um, but other than that, the earlier tracks like to the Isle of Man, going up to Aycliffe. We had the trip to Holland. We had a good long weekend over there. Raced two venues over there. I just try and get to as many tracks, even if we haven't raced there before.
Yeah.
And say you've been there, can't you?
So, what was it about Crew then that gave you the jitters?
I think it was more the fact that the lighting was poor, the track was rough, the fencing was hard. It was everything a down and out stock car track was going to be.
Right.
Um, and then obviously you're locked in there, and then the flag goes, and you couldn't see across the track and all at one point. Sometimes, you want to be looking well ahead for the
Yeah.
corners, and you couldn't see anything. So you come round a corner, and there'd be cars piled up, and you're like, I don't know where I'm going, you know.
Bit of a
So,
blind
it,
spot.
yeah, and it was so fast and all. I mean, it wouldn't be fast compared to some of the speeds nowadays, but it seemed just so fast because you're never letting off. So Yeah, good place. Good place.
Can you share any memories of some of the other drivers of that time?
Um, I mean, the standout guys would be the likes of Richard Ainsworth and Phil Haig. Phil Haig was, I mean, he goes, you just mention his name and everybody's got a tale about Phil. From his car jumps to him putting me through the fence at the Isle of Man and ended up being whisked off to Nobles Park Hospital. And then when I saw him afterwards, he says, "Well, I had to hit you because I'd have ended up in the crowd." Just
Okay.
things like that. And you think, "Well, thanks for being a service." You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, they were some of the harder drivers, and Len Wolfenden, he was a hard driver back in the days. And then you move on to the likes of the Rob Moores. I mean, I always envied Rob following him around a shale track. It was just seemed so effortless, as though he could be reading a paper and it would just race around. It was always wanted to try and get my car to set up like him on shale. And but uh, but yeah, there was some good drivers. They hit hard. They were fair. There were some good guys out there.
So moving on now to current times, which are your favourite current tracks?
Um, Buxton has to be my all-time favourite at the minute. Back in the early years, never liked Buxton, never liked tarmac because
Right.
I would never seem to be fast enough.
Yeah.
And then I just clicked there one day and won a race. I never really looked back. I had the settings in my head, and then they changed the track. At one point it was a longer track than it is now. Then it
Right.
was a narrower track. Then it's gone wider now. And I can just seem to adapt because it's my local track. I
Yeah.
just go there and think there might be somebody who knows me, and let's put on a good show for them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I like Hendersford and all. Hendersford's quite a good track. Um, that seems to be one that I eventually did a win at. I've raced there for years, but yeah, they're the two standout tracks for me, really.
And your worst ones?
Sorry.
And your worst ones?
Oh gosh. A late night wet shale meeting. So that could be generalised to anywhere, couldn't it, really? If you're the last Formula on, um, I mean, I'll be honest with you, Coventry stands out to me as one iconic track to watch, be part of, be there. But it's always been my bogey track.
Right.
I've never done any good there whatsoever. Never won a race. I've been lying second, I think, in a world final there. Took the wrong move, went round a parked car and ended up fourth or fifth. And I'm like, what can I do to do something good there? But
You stamped on some fairies at that track, haven't you?
yeah, something went wrong. Something went wrong.
What are your thoughts on the return of the Bradford track?
um, yeah, I think it'd be really good for the sport, and especially up the northwest, because the recent loss of Bellevue, it's stopped. There's a massive gap for us guys up north, and to be that venue, and to be able to pull out on that track in that size stadium, yeah, over the moon that it's coming back, and looking forward to going out there. Um, but I think so long as we can try and keep the car numbers up there, I think we'll go well.
Yeah.
I mean, I did race back there when the Hotstox raced, well, 90s, mid 90s, something like that. And we always raced the day after the Formula Ones.
Yeah.
So the track was like part shale, part tarmac. So it was curious what setup you used. Um, I remember specifically we went there and I got going round and I thought, oh, I'm going really well here. I've not lifted my foot off the throttle. And then all of a sudden, an almighty bang, and the car stopped under the start flagman, and I was drowned in the car in engine oil, and it just
Okay.
exploded the engine. And I'm like, oh dear, that's not going to
Right.
start again, is it?
Yeah.
So and that was back in the days when you didn't understand gearing, you just picked up what you could.
Yeah.
A little bit different nowadays, but yeah, I'll be watching my gearing when we go back.
Not making that same mistake twice.
Well, not at the minute, not the cost of them.
So life away from racing then. What do you spend your time doing when you're not racing or sorting the car?
Um, Not a lot really, other than going with the wife water skiing. The wife's into the water skiing. She used to have horses. She used to have three. Met her with four. So the horses and the stock cars nearly went together.
I'll bear
Um,
that in mind then.
yeah, horsepower and horses. It nearly worked. Um, but yeah, I mean, other than that, I don't really do a lot. I'm in the shed most nights, welding, repairing, building, whatever it is, really. Um, but that's the normal week. I look forward to going in there and doing stuff.
So what do you do for work then?
I'm a site agent, but I work for like a utilities company. I have teams out on the roads repairing sewers of all things.
Yeah.
So that keeps me busy from 6 in the morning till 6 at night. And then if you work hard, you need to play hard, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. If you were to throw a dinner party for six drivers, past or present, from V8s, who would you invite?
Hmm. I think I'd have to split it for, some of the earlier drivers to the present. Um, I'll just let them all know I don't cook and I don't drink. So it might be more talking than drinking, but I'd soon find something out. But no, I think sort of the earlier drivers. I think I'd go Mick Rogers, who you've spoke to recently.
Yep.
He'd have some brilliant tales, and he's such a clever driver. Um, Andy Smith, I've raced quite a bit with Andy, and he took my car out one day at Northampton, and so he helped me out quite a bit with that. Um, I think Rob Moore, 409, Luke's dad. Um, he's one funny character. I mean, some of the tales going back over the years is unbelievable with Rob. So I think he'd open up the party. And then moving to some present drivers, I think I'd have to go for Billows
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I don't think anybody wouldn't include Billows in a party Um, quite like Mike Lomax. Mike's quite a comical guy, quite a lot of stories to tell, helpful and everything. And Chris Ford,
All right.
yeah. I mean, when we talk rivalries, I've had an awful lot of races, run-ins, stuff with Chris, but again, he's another guy who's helped me, and I think he'd have some really good tales to bring to the table,
Do you think those
So,
rivalries would just get left on they get left on the track then, or
yeah,
or
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Chris was funny. He'd push you all the way down the straight at Buxton, and then you'd turn the corner, and he'd say, "Well, at least I got you another place there because I pushed you past two cars," And it's like, do you not realise if anybody else would be like, "This bloke will not stop pushing me," uh, but yeah, it'd be comical that we have some good tales.
So what would you be your ideal weekend away then?
Um, I mean, obviously it's racing. I mean, as soon as the meetings start, um, get into the AJM. I like to go there at the day before and chill out, and
Yeah.
then race. And if I can book another day off work and stop again, then that chills me out. Then I'm all right. I'm settled. But other than that, we go to Abersock in Wales quite a lot. So I just to shut off from everything. We just go down there and just turn everything off.
I mean, you mentioned before Christina likes her water skiing. She's an avid water skier. Is that something that you enjoy, or is it strictly four wheels for you?
Um, no, I have done a bit. I can water ski. I've done the wakeboarding, which is a similar thing. I had to give that up because it just ruins your knees, and I was a bit stupid with it. I'd just jump as high as I could and crash off. But then I got onto the water skiing side of it because of the speed.
Yeah.
The boats have V8 engines in, so that helps. So, and I'm not a lover of boats. I don't get on with boats, so I'd sooner be hung out the back on a rope. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy doing that as well.
So which would you choose then? Would you choose a weekend water skiing or a weekend racing?
I'd have to say it depends on the weather. If the forecast if the forecast at Coventry was torrential thunder and downpour, and I was leaving Manchester Rochdale where we water ski, lovely sunny, I think I
Yeah.
might go water skiing. I might be tempted.
Yeah, I can understand that one. What comparisons could you give with racing in your early years to how it is presently?
Um, I mean, the first one that sticks out is the car numbers. Um, Everybody had a car back then. You know, meetings all over the country, and you'd think you could go to a meeting where there won't be many cars and try and pick up a few points. And the pits would be full, and it'd be
Right.
just Hotstox. You know what I mean? Um, I mean the tracks, some of the tracks that we raced at, some of them comparisons were post and wire fencing at 90% of the tracks. Whereas now we've got the steel plate.
Yeah.
It's good for the turnaround on the cars. It's not so good on the body when you hit it. Um, I mean, back then you could hit a wire rope, and then if you could bounce out and miss a post, you were lucky. Now, if you hit the fence, you stop. You know,
Yeah.
so the fences to me is one of the tracks that stands out as well. But yeah, those are a couple of the things really.
Who would you say are your top five current drivers at the moment?
Um, Obviously it'd be awkward to put them in order really, but I'd go for Ollie for his for what he's achieved. You know, um, I'll always see that move he did at Skegness with Kevin as an all-time good move. It was fair and it won in the race, I think. So Ollie had put Ollie up there. Gillan Bullock, he's of the mini drivers that come in. I mean, obviously over the years I've seen so many mini drivers come into the sport, but the way Gillan drives is a stock car drive. A lot of the mini drivers used to just run down the side here, and so they're in the mini and think, "Oh, dearie me, it's an open wheel car," and then you both end up on the infield, So Gillan's probably took to it well. I'd say Guy. I'd say a lot for Guy. I know he's disappeared on the screen, but for what he's got and what he does, I'll hold my hat off to him. I do have some good races with Guy on Shale when I get out. Um, Steve Thompson, he had a short period of time in the sport, and I believe he's coming back. I hope. And he he was a really good driver. Coming from the hot rods, he was so smooth, and just to watch him it's good to see him come and go. And I'd say John Brown.
Yeah.
John you cannot with his cars now. You cannot rule him out on any track. He's so consistent, and unless you're doing really well, John's in your mirror. So
Yeah.
I'd put them guys as my top five.
So if you could change the sport, what would you do? How would you look for new fans and drivers?
Well, obviously, I've said I'm not into change too much, and I believe if you can keep a lid on something, and let it evolve that way, then that's one way. Um, I, I think going back in the earlier years, the involvement for the fans coming into the pits areas, that even though there was so many cars, how people didn't get injured, I don't know
Yeah.
from a health and safety side of it, but it got it. People could see the cars on track and then go and see the person who's raced
Mhm.
it. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think more of that would help. But obviously, health and safety we're going away from segregating these people. When
Yeah.
they how can I put it? They're there to watch us race, but they'd also need to interact with those guys,
Mm.
because I mean, I'll go back to I think it was a world final at Skegness. We were given T-shirts to throw to the crowd
Yeah,
on the parade lap, and we got all the way around and got lost in the moment, waving at everybody. And when we were virtually ready to line up, I thought, I've still got this T-shirt, so I just threw it in the crowd, and I saw this bloke catch it, and I thought, oh, it's fine. But then I think I got third in that one, not going on, another third place. And then I was sat in the car at the end of the race in the pits, and this little lad turned up and he got the T-shirt on and he was just
brilliant.
waving at me. And I thought that just made the day for me because
Yeah,
that bloke brought his little lad and the little lad there saw me and stuff like that, because that stuck with that little lad and he got a
mm,
T-shirt off me and he come to see me and he might have kids now and becoming himself, and
yeah,
I think that'll develop it.
definitely. If you could bring back one track, which would you choose from the tracks that are now gone?
Um, I think it'd have to be Bellevue High Road, the original one. I mean, I watched the Hotstox on the last ever meeting held there, and it was one of them things. Oh, this is the last meeting, and you never really believed it until a friend of a friend said, "Oh, I'm going demolishing the stock car track," and it had gone, and it was such an atmosphere there. I just from watching from a little nipper, I'd want to go and race there. So
Yeah.
that'd be definitely a good track. But Bradford's close, you know what I mean? It's a similar size track and like a venue.
Have you had any clashes of personality or difficult moments you'd wish to share with us?
Funny enough, I had quite a lot when I was scrutineering. I did the scrutineering for a time,
Hmm.
which was awkward when I was racing because I mean I took the scrutineering side as serious as I could
Yeah.
because I wanted people to be safe out there. You know what I mean? So there's been a few moments when I pulled drivers and said your helmet's not right or this isn't fixed or stuff like that. But the clash of personalities is there at that track at that particular time. But
Mm.
then when you see them next week and they've fixed it, you feel a bit of pride in what you've said. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it sort of goes away as fast as it's come. But that was some of the times, when I was scrutineering really.
Have there been any funny on-track moments you can share with us?
Oh gosh, loads of them. If I go back to my first ever meeting, the scrutineer again said to my dad, your fuel line's not right. You need to change it. So my dad changed it. So thought nothing of it, spilled fuel all over the engine. So we thought, right, fine. I pulled on the track and I could smell burning. And at that point, I thought, I'm on fire. And we hadn't even started the race. So I reached for the fire extinguisher and I'm pulling away. And I thought, I can't get it out of the holder. And at that time, the marshal had come across and put it out. But when we got the car back in the pits, lo and behold, the fire extinguisher, the reason I couldn't get it out is it was drilled and pot riveted to the cab side.
Oh, crikey.
So I'm like, no wonder I couldn't get that out. And and that was scrutineering back then. They looked in, yeah, you've got a fire extinguisher, right, carry on. I thought I could have been sat there in flames pulling at this thing. So now get out, don't mess about looking for
Yeah.
fire extinguishers, like,
Yeah.
But I mean, that was one. I had a moment at Skegness, pulled up at the side of somebody, and he had a full socket set sat in the front of his car. And I'm like
Crikey.
pointing over to him, and he's giving me the thumb and waving, and I'm going, hey, what if all that lot goes everywhere on the track? Lo and behold, the marshal spotted it, so that went away. But yeah, and then another one was Long Eaton again. Rob Moore, Luke Moore's dad. We had I think the fence had come down, so we were all lined up single file, and it was taking ages. And at that point, my nerves started to settle in then, and my legs started to shake. I thought, oh, what's going on here? And Rob doesn't know more than take his belts off, climbs out of the car, over the fence, over to the bar, gets a bottle of Newcastle Brown, comes back, and he's sat on his side rail drinking this Newcastle Brown. And I'm looking at him going, I'm a nervous wreck here, and you're just. And then all of a sudden, he put it at the side of the fence, got back in his car, and off we went. And it's like, wow, I can't do that. How do I do that? Like, but well, that was a classic one with Rob, and again, I mentioned the Isle of Man crash. That was funny. They wouldn't let me out of the car. They said, we're going to have to cut the roof off. And I says, no, you can't. It's my only car. You can't cut the roof off. So they cut the spokes on the steering wheel. It were before
Yeah.
removable steering wheels. So they got me out, took me to hospital, wanted to cut my overalls off. I said, no, God hope I was all right. But then there was two other meetings that week. I thought, well, how am I going to drive now with no steering wheel? So my dad welded the spokes back on the steering wheel to the column, but the steering wheel was just doing that when I'm trying to drive and turn. And our race that week, I don't know. I think just young and daft. I think, to be honest with you, but so
Did you
removable
finish the
steering
race
wheels.
though?
Oh yeah, finished quite a few races. But by the time I got used to it, it would end at holiday. Like I thought it was such a bumpy track was Isle of Man, so you couldn't control it. I would daft look back now. I think why, but you just want to race, don't
Yeah.
you?
So, how about off track? Any funny moments off track?
um, yeah, we're obviously that's part and parcel of the racing. We have quite a few weekends at Cottage Farm. People get worse for wear after barbecues, and there's always memorable moments and tales that goes on then. Um, we had a good occasion in at the Peterborough show where we went off for something to eat in our Billows' van, but we all got chucked in the back of the van and took off. It was almost as though we were being dumped somewhere. You never know where you're going with our Billows, and doors flew open and we all jumped out. Um, I mean, as I mentioned, I had my stag do at Stoke. I don't really remember much about that. I remember going with my friends. Obviously, because I don't drink, I said I'm having bottles of Coke, and these bottles of Coke were getting fuller and fuller in the bottle. And I thought, they're not normally that full to the top. And then before you know it, the meeting had ended. And I ran around the stock car track thinking I was a stock car, shouting my head off for some reason, so I heard. But I hope there's no videos of that knocking around anyway.
Yeah, I
But
bet there might be a photo somewhere.
well, I hope not. I hope not. It's not rose yet, but with this Facebook stuff, you never know, do you? But no, there's always, and I really enjoy that side of it because they're memories that stick with the racing as well.
So, I mean, what are your thoughts on the 2021 fixture list?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the guys on the board have done really well, um, given the current conditions and climates and restrictions. And I think the promoters have seen that, we are a formula that needs some good fixtures. And I think for once, I see a really good split of shale and tarmac.
Hmm.
So I think it's going to encourage drivers who maybe didn't venture out last year, through one or another. But no, there's some really good meetings. I would like the world, I would say, back at the King's Lynn, which we were all thinking about was going to happen.
Mm,
But equally, Bradford, if them crowds turn up at Bradford, and I can qualify, it'd be a good moment to pull on track at a world final for us there.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think they've done really well with them fixtures.
I mean, I was going to ask you the world final at Bradford and the Europeans at Buxton are home races really for you. Is that something that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, yeah, and as soon as I saw them, I thought, there's some good titles there to aim for. I mean, don't get me wrong, each year I aim for the titles. There's not many world finals I've not been in. Probably had probably every place available other than win. So
Yeah.
I need to sort of shape myself a bit, you know. But yeah, Buxton, yeah, a championship at Buxton always gets me interested, you know. European, get that change of roof colour if you can get it. You can say you've been there, can't you?
So, what are your plans for 2021?
Um, I mean, I'm gonna try and do with the fixtures that are there. I think I can do a lot more than I've done in the past. Obviously work around work and everything. And just do as many meetings as I can. I mean, I'm trying to get back up the grades. That's my problem.
Yeah.
Um, I, I I ended up not doing a lot of meetings a couple of years ago, which put me downgraded. Um, and you know, not for wanting to call a yellow top. I don't believe I should be down at yellow. Um, you know, with the experience I've got,
Yeah.
where I've been, what I've done, I just feel as though I'm cheating somebody out of a grade down there, if you know what I mean.
Right.
You know, you could have somebody who goes and does a couple of meetings from white and moves up to yellow, but they've probably only done 3 meetings,
Mm.
you know, and then I sit at side of them, and you know, I don't know. I just want to move up my grades. That's my plan this year.
Yeah.
Like,
Have you any car information for us this season? Is there a new car or any refurbishments to the car?
um, well, I've had a long going refurbishment on what was originally my tarmac car, a black car. It got badly damaged at Skegness weekend a few years ago. I've totally rebuilt that. It's a rolling chassis state. I still have my old trusty white car, and I've purchased a new to me car this year that I'm going to try and run on just tarmac. So I'm at the moment, I've one car done, one car nearly done, and the other one's still ongoing. So I just,
You've got a couple of weeks yet, Brian.
oh, I know it's not painted, it's not got axles on, but I'll be there. I'll be there, like you know. But yeah, hopefully it should help me move up the grades a bit more, you know.
So, where do you see the sport in the next 5 to 10 years?
Um, I think I think the sport as a whole will still be going. There's some good people in it at the minute who have got the sport in their best interests.
Mhm.
Over the years, there's been a lot of people who have been involved in it, who their racing is at their best interest, if you know what I mean, not
Right.
the formula.
Yeah.
So I think with input from what the sport's learned over the years, and the mistakes they've made, or trials that they've done, should help us in the next 5 to 10 years. The only thing me personally would want is a lot more, how can I put it, testing and encouragement for drivers to try new axles, new parts, you know, just to keep the formula going. You know, as an example, I've just had to buy a kingpin kit for a 1982 van. Some of the drivers that are out there racing now wouldn't
Mm.
even know what year 1982 would be. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I think we do need to start saying to drivers, look, we'll open it up for you to try this axle, that axle, these wheels, something just to keep with the present day availability of equipment, you know.
Yeah. I was going to say, do you think
Uh,
that, it's getting more difficult as the time goes on to find equipment for the vehicles?
yeah, yeah, you know, and if we don't watch out, it will go more towards everything's going to be fabricated.
Mm.
And you know, back in the day, I mean, I'll go back in the early days where you could go to scrap yards and you'd walk around and you'd see stuff that you could make fit your car,
Yeah.
and it would get you racing. You don't really go near scrap yards now. It's
No.
all, you know, wheels that are being made, it's all axles that are being made. So it needs to try and claw back the availability that you could just go and buy something from a scrap yard.
Yeah.
You know, and there's stuff there, there's still a lot of vehicles that are rear-wheel drive. There's still a lot of people that use these wheel sizes. So the stuff's there. It's just we need to try and bring people who've got ideas, put them into practice, and give them encouragement, really.
So, what does the future hold for Bryan Andrews then?
Uh, Racing and more racing, really. I've no really desires to hang the helmet up. I've got, a few years ago, I said I'm just going to keep racing until I get to seasons. If I don't win a race in a season, then I'll start winding it down.
Yeah.
And I've said that for the last few years, and I always seem to win a race, and then you get the bug back, and before you know it, you've done 15 meetings, 20
Yeah.
meetings, haven't you? So no, I just keep going, really.
Is there any plans at all to try racing in another formula at all?
Um, I think I'm long past that now. I think I'm long past that. It's I always had a desire to just hire and have a go in a Formula One,
Hmm.
just to just to say it. I mean, I've only ever sat in one once. I'm not of all the meetings I've been to watch and seen and everything. I managed to sit in Dave Berris was one at his last ever meeting. I don't know if he knew
Right.
about it, but I jumped in and had a sit in. But
Oh, I'll have a
that's
bit
the
of a feel.
nearest. Yeah. That was it. And I just thought, oh, he's not around. And the mechanic lad who I know said, oh, jump in, he won't mind.
So
So I
having a bit of a
dived in. And
cheeky moment there, Bryan.
that's it. Yeah, and just had a bit of a grin and then got out quick.
Yeah, photo taken.
Mm, that's it. That's it.
So, who would be on your list of top five all-time drivers then? All-time
Oh
V8 drivers.
gosh. V8 drivers or Hotstox or V8
V8
Hotstox or
drivers. V8
V8
drivers.
of. Oh right, now you've narrowed it down then.
Have you?
Um, I think I think you can't turn down what Kevin's done.
Yeah.
Um, race race with him time in, time out. Had some good races, some good battles with him. Um, Followed him over the line on several occasions, I'll say, reluctantly. Um, you know, but yeah, Kevin's up there. Um, Chris Fort, he was another guy who could make anything go round. Really, he could tell you to change something and you change it, and you'd be with him, but he'd still win. Um, who else would I put there then? It's awkward now because I probably thought, wondering whether Mick Rogers was V8 Hotstox or was he Hotstox? I can't remember. Can't remember that.
Not sure now.
Yeah, is that borderline? Can I have that one?
Yeah, I'll let you have that one.
Yeah,
He's been on
yeah,
here and yeah, yeah.
yeah. So we'll go with him. Um, and I don't know really, to be honest with you, I think I'd have to say Luke Moore
Right.
because Luke came in. He bought a car, it won. He built a car, it won.
Yeah.
He sold it on, it's still winning. It's a big thing to me for people who build their cars. You know what I mean? Kevin builds his car. Chris can adapt any car to his style. Mick Rogers built his own cars, and like I say, Luke. Hats off to him. To build something and win, I think it's a big achievement in anything, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, those
Yeah.
would be those.
Talent
Those
off
would be
the
the
tracks.
current
Well
guys.
done.
That's it. That's
Is
it.
there
Yeah.
is there anyone you'd like to thank or mention?
Quite a big list over the years, really. Starting early days, my mum and dad. They took me and encouraged me to start in the racing and took me all over the country in early days, abroad and everything. Second to none, the wife, Christina. She just, I don't know. I'll get to Thursday and I'll say, oh, I don't whether I'm going this weekend, and she'll say, well, what else we're going to do? I'm not doing anything else. You may as well race. I say to her, do you know what it takes to get a car ready to race? She says, well, go and do it. So She always kicks me and always gets me moving. So definitely Christine, my wife. I've Carl, I'll add Carl and Steph Seddon. They come and help me travel all the way from Bolton to give me a lift. They help me out. You know, they're the current team at the minute. Um, Going back, I had Paul Heath. He runs what they call H2O Racing. He was another guy who said, "Don't worry about it. If you bend it, I'll fix it. Just go and race." He gave me a lot of encouragement. You know, I have guys that contribute to me racing. Mike Lomax at Stair Shop, Paul Young, Chapel Motors. I can rely on him to get me any parts I want, and I just go and get them off him. You know,
Yeah.
Tom at PGR Racing. He's another guy looks after me engines ever since I turned to him. Touch wood, they've all been right. Sign writer Lee Book comes and does my cars, makes them look good. Like to turn out a good car for people. Um, Martin at Mobile Welding, he's been helping me out recently with welding and stuff like that. And but there's a whole list of people, and anybody who helps me. You know, I see people not as sponsors, but I see them as if they help me out. You know, I'll do what they can for them and try
Yeah.
and put on a good show. You know, so yeah, list of people.
Quite a long one. Well,
Yeah, yeah.
thank you so much for your time this evening. I wish you all the best for the 2021 season and look forward to seeing you racing this year.
Brilliant. Thanks for it and keep up the good work, you guys.
Thank you.